Hi, I'm Sister Dusty Farnan. I'm a Dominican of Adrian, Michigan, and I have been the vocation director for the congregation for the last 7 years. And prior to that, I was the justice promoter for the congregation for at least 13 years. And I live here in Adrian, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to engage and walk with young women who are exploring and discerning religious life. I think many of us in the United States may not be aware that Erbil is trying to become a separate part of the country in Iraq. They are part of Iraq, but they speak Kurdish, and as a result, the sisters speak Arabic and Aramaic. They do not speak Kurdish. Now, they may understand a lot of the language, but when you're talking about children and you're talking about education, then what we really are talking about is how do we help these children get established in schools. So for now, there's not enough room for the children in the schools, and secondly, they don't speak the language. So the sisters have begun very small with the help of others here in the United States and around the world, trying to help establish little primary schools. And then secondly, the people are in need of health care, and so the sisters have set up clinics with the help of the Catholic Near East Welfare Association, which is the pontifical charity. And so the sisters have begun to set up facilities for the people for health care, both in Erbil Center itself and then just outside of Erbil in an area just recently in the beginning of March called Kaznakan. And this is great because the people are so far away from any healthcare facilities. So what's happening is they're calling on the internally displaced, who are doctors, nurses, pharmacists, physicians of all kinds, to be the workers in the clinics. And this is how the people, along with the sisters, are trying to help one another survive this very difficult time in their life. I think it's pretty hard for us to understand what could possibly be frightening for the sisters since they're living in their, quote, own country. But really, they're not in their country. They are living in northern Iraq. They're from Nineveh Plain. And so what they're finding out is this incredible living with instability. You and I know what it's like to try to make decisions when things are calm around us. But things are not calm where they are. 3 weeks ago, there was an attempted bombing of the U.S. consulate, which is 3 blocks away from their convent in Erbil. And so the sisters are trying to live with what I would call instability, this unknowing. Are they safe? Will the Peshmerga keep them safe? When they hear of incidences like the bombing, and then they hear that 27 miles away from them, there are incursions by ISIS in little villages or surrounding Erbil. So it's this tenuous kind of living from day to day, wanting to support their families and Christian families and others who are displaced, not just the Christians. The Yazidis are another minority group. How do we help them in a time when there's so much instability? And the question becomes, so shall we build a school? Shall we buy land here in Erbil? Because that's the only way they could establish a school, really, is if they buy some land and then put up kind of containers like what we have here in the United States, trailers for additional classrooms. So this is a really very, very difficult time. I think another way in which the Dominicans in the United States have been very helpful during this very most immediate time of crisis, we disbanded the Iraq Coordinating Committee in 2012 when President Obama took over presidency. And then we upped it again. Last June we began, when ISIS started to become very, moving more into Iraq, and then in August. So we reinitiated the coordinating committee, and then during that time we have been trying to get the story from the Dominicans, what's happening there. We've worked with many other NGOs in Iraq over these last 10 months. And now in January, the Dominicans together, both the friars and the sisters, gathered resources together so that a delegation of 3 of us, could go to Iraq and actually see for ourselves what was happening with the internally displaced. And it was cold, and it was sad, and it was like, I can't believe these people are living in these conditions. So if you would like to be a part of this project where together, not only Dominicans, but citizens of the United States can support those who are internally displaced in Iraq, you are welcome to send a contribution or a donation to the Dominican Sisters. And if you write a check, it just says Dominican Sisters on it. And in the memo part, you can say for the Iraqi Dominican Sisters, for their general needs, or for their healthcare ministries, or for schools, or whatever you would like it to go towards. We will be most happy to be a conduit, and we'll certainly respond to you that we received your donation for the Dominican Sisters of Iraq, and then we have a way in which we can mail that to the sisters. So if you send that to Sister Attracta Kelly, Adrian Dominican Sisters, 1257 East Siena Heights Drive, Adrian, Michigan, 49221, we will be most grateful, and we will be delighted to share your donation with the Dominican Sisters of Iraq. I've had the opportunity as a Dominican to visit many congregations in the world. I've visited the Dominicans in Taiwan and our sisters in the Philippines. I have visited the Dominicans in South Africa, where our sisters were ministering and where they are ministering. I've worked with a variety of sisters in Kenya and in Ghana, West Africa. And I have visited the Dominican sisters in Nigeria. And that's what it means to belong to a Dominican order, a global Dominican order, where we have the opportunity of being in solidarity with one another and to tell the stories of what's happening with our sisters and friars in these particular places. It's both enriching, humbling, and very moving to learn of their stories and to count on them when there's need in our Dominican family. Meeting our Dominican family in the world is a pleasure, it's a delight. Most of all, it's unifying, and it's this opportunity of experiencing the unity of the Dominican family that's really very important. And this is what an ambassador like myself is able to do when she comes back to the U.S., to tell their stories and what they're engaged in and how God has called them to be ministers among their own people or others.